face the hard truth of where you are now compared to where you want to be. And if the path you are on will actually take you to where you want to be, or you're just kidding yourself. Hello everybody and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're about to talk about turning your life around through productivity. This is an entire series and this is the first video in this series. Before I start, I want you to know that this is not just any YouTube video that is created to make you feel good or to feel motivated and pumped. This is real life raw experiences of mine actually that I've gathered over the years of my existence, and I've just put it together in this little series to explain much of what I've learned about productivity, motivation. So in my last video I spoke about getting to know yourself. If you have not watched the video, please go back and watch that video as it builds the foundation for this particular video. So I spoke about how getting to know yourself, discovering yourself, unlearning yourself, and then rediscovering yourself is the foundation for life and getting through life. I spoke about the fact that there is a point where you know yourself well enough that you can now build a solid foundation for life from. That's what we're about to talk about in this video. So, of course, if you've not watched the last video, go back and watch it. And then let's continue from there. Let's start with phase 1, which is the internal process. So, I'm sure a lot of you have heard people that manage to change their life around and get to a reasonable point in their life speak about the snap. How they woke up one day and then they snapped and they never went back again. And that was how they changed their life. I'm here to tell you that it's not the snap. Actually, the snap is a series of internal processes that takes place over a period of time, and then one day the person just snaps, like as if something clicks in their brain, and then they decide they want to be better. So in this particular area we're talking about productivity, the snap happens when over time you've wanted to be better but not had the motivation to do something about it yet, and then one day these internal processes, which I will speak about later on, will cause the snap. So there were key steps that led to the snap, looking back on my own journey, and I will highlight the steps that took me to the snap and see if you can relate to it, or if you see it happening in your life so you can recognize it, or you see it in someone else's life so you can recognize it, and also to provide insight on how productivity and how motivation and how turning your life around happens and how it doesn't just happen. So the first step is leaving toxic situations. Looking back now, I see that I left a lot of toxic situations that were happening in my life as at that time. Every toxic friend, toxic environment, toxic situation that I was in, I felt inclined to leave that space of toxicity and try to be better and move forward and look for better, in my life. So that was the first step that created the internal process that leads to the snap. So the first step you will notice is that you leave toxic people. I literally stopped talking to most of my friends, and I found 2 friends who aligned with me and aligned with my path and motivated me to want to continue towards this lifestyle and live a better life. I love this quote from Dostoevsky that says, "Above all, don't lie to yourself." I'll give you some time to read this quote thoroughly and understand exactly what it means. I think in summary, we understand that Dostoevsky is trying to tell us here that we should never lie to ourselves. We should be brutally honest with ourselves and get to know ourselves, and that is exactly what will help us move forward in life. There's no moving forward or having a better life without honesty with ourselves and actually truly getting to know ourselves. So the second step is intense self-awareness. So you begin to become much more self-aware. You become more honest to yourself about where you are at in life, which I spoke about in getting to know yourself, that's the second stage in this internal process. You begin to ask yourself deep and hard questions like, who am I? What am I doing? Am I happy with where I am now in life? Is this what I want to be doing right now in life? Like, you begin to ask yourself these questions. Like, you want to know if you are truly happy with where you are in life and if this is what you want for yourself. You face the hard truth of where you are now compared to where you want to be. And if the path you are on will actually take you to where you want to be, or you're just kidding yourself. So that's why I call this the second stage, because it begins to happen. Sometimes may come in guise or negative self-talk, which of course is not good, but sometimes they come hand in hand. And if you listen deeply to the thoughts that are popping up in your head that are hard to hear, sometimes you may find the root of discontentment that's bringing up these thoughts in your head. So step 3 is brutal honesty with yourself.
Watch this next clip from one of my favorite animes to really understand why I say brutal honesty with yourself is important and why it's very important that one gets to know themselves.
無一郎確固たる自分を取り戻したとき、君はもっと強くなれる。
That was the third stage in the internal process that happened and led to the drive to want to turn my life around. So the third stage was brutal honesty with myself. I became very honest with myself about, where I was at, my strengths, my weaknesses, my limitations, what I needed to work on, what was holding me back. And this helped to propel me forward. This helped me to accept where I was at right now. Because if you're not honest with yourself, who will be honest with you? And besides, being honest with yourself creates confidence in yourself, like I said in the Get to Know Yourself video. So that was it for me. My step 3 was being brutally honest with myself and accepting the truth about where I was at and why I wasn't where I wanted to be at that time. So yeah, you need to get extremely and brutally honest with yourself in a way that nobody can be honest with you. And that's one of the most important steps to turn you. Step 4 was feeding myself with the right inputs. I started creating my social media to feed me with motivational videos and inspirational content from people I wanted to be like and goals I wanted to achieve. So at first it made me feel bad about myself. But deep down I really wanted this, but I didn't know it yet, or I didn't have the drive to get up and do what I wanted to do. So but I just started watching videos, or inspirational stuff that, started making me feel motivated to want to be like those people. Over time, I started resenting the fact that I was just sitting there and watching other people get what they wanted and I wasn't. So I made sure that my feed was created to only show me motivational videos. When I scroll all day, like I usually do anyways, I would always scroll all day, like TikTok, Instagram, you name it. So it was like my way of taking back some sort of control by creating the social media I spent so much time on into a kind of motivational input and drive for me. So the next step for me was planning for change. I started creating a schedule that incorporated all the activities and all the things I wanted to do as my very motivated self. But the funny thing was I wasn't ready to do it yet. I just created it. I just let it sit there okay, this is what I want, and yeah, I'm not ready to pursue it yet, but I made it. I made the schedule in Microsoft Excel. It was filled with colors and so many things, and it sat there for months, genuinely, and I didn't do anything about it. But it was one of the first steps, after watching all of these videos and seeing all people achieve all these things, it made me at least take that step, and I just created that schedule, and I just never used it for a long time. It just sat there, the schedule that incorporated all the things I wanted in my life as a motivated person that was striving towards their goals. So I created that schedule, though I never touched it for months. So that was the next step for me in this internal process. So what I'm trying to say about this internal process was that I'm not trying to say that I was conscious of all these or I planned to do all of them. No, I didn't. I wasn't even aware that I was doing this thing called the internal process, which I think is creating the chemical compound that will lead to the snap that everyone speaks so much about when somebody decides to make changes towards their life and change for the better. I just looked back and saw what happened that led me to deciding that I wanted to be productive and I wanted to be, better. So that's what I call the internal process. I'm not saying that I consciously did these things. I never did. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just doing them because I wanted to be better, low key, like deep down in my heart. I wanted to be better, but I just didn't have the drive, and I was ready to. So I started doing these little things, little by little. So because I did those unconsciously, you may not have the drive at all, and you may not even know what to do. You can do what I did to like propel you towards that path, and help you to create that process that would lead to developing a drive, like creating little by little, watching people live the lives you want over and over, and being honest with yourself and being self-aware, and cry when you need to because you're very disappointed with yourself at the moment, but of course don't let it overwhelm you. I know that we're all human and sometimes we're not motivated and we're not our best selves. What really matters is getting up and trying to be your best self regardless of how you must have felt or behaved. Then regardless of how you must have been, then it doesn't matter. What matters is what you do now. So that was for me. That was the internal process. But the snap hadn't happened yet. So now let's speak about the trigger that is the wake-up call. So again, I'll be using my experience. What woke me up and made me feel like I wanted to be better and like do better in life. My trigger happened on a random day when my results, my school exam results came in, and I saw that it wasn't what I wanted or what I expected. It made me feel so down that I was in bed all day just sad, and that was it. That moment of despair literally woke me up. It was like the chemical compound of the internal process I've been creating since finally sparked, finally snapped, and that was my something snapped moment. And I woke up and I said, enough is enough. I want to do better in life. I want to be better in life, and that was my trigger, and that was my wake-up call. That was what pushed me into actually finally taking action on the things that I planned. My schedule finally started being used. I was finally ready to use it, and that was it for me. That was my trigger. That was my wake-up call. So when you hear people say that, they had a wake-up call, they just woke up one day and they knew that they wanted to do better, like they didn't want this for their lives, they just wanted to be better, and they just woke up one day and they just knew, I don't want this anymore. Trust me, there's been a lot of internal processes that have been going on. Something just triggered it. So if you look back on my life and you don't really see these processes, you would think that my wake-up call was the exam, and whilst it was, I think I've been on the path since, and that just triggered it. When I look back, I am entirely grateful to the process because it made me who I am, and I think I had to go through that to be able to really accept the fact that I wasn't really in the best place at that time. And I think the process was very fundamental to who I am, the values I hold and how I approach life these days. But I don't think it should take that long for everyone, and that's why this series is here for you, to help you fast track this process. It won't take months or years like it did for me and a lot of other people. You could be intentional about it and not just unconsciously let it happen to you. You could become more intentional about it and intentionally pursue a better life. So that's what this series is about. This is just the pre-productivity stage, and in the next video we'll be talking about the productivity stage, what to do after you've had the wake-up call and you're ready to start pushing and start moving. That's what the next stage will be. So if you're ready to live a fulfilling and authentic life, then subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on post notifications and comments so that we can start this journey together. Bye.